Now at 9, how a federal grant will help the city of Joplin restructure its public transportation. Plus,
how Carthage is getting ready for Marian Days. I'm Fernanda Silva and I spoke to the CEO of a business who is expecting a lot of visits in the upcoming days.
And why the governors of Kansas and New Mexico visited Pitt State today.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Dow Quick. The city of Joplin is a step closer to restructuring its public transportation thanks to a grant. KOAM's Amber Jenkins spoke to officials about their plans for that transportation grant money.
The city of Joplin was awarded $400,000 from the Federal Transit Administration. City officials are planning to use the money to restructure the public transportation system and possibly expand it.
We know that our transit riders and participants are bigger than Joplin. They're more regional in nature. So we hope to reach out to our stakeholders as well and our regional partners to develop a program that meets the needs of the whole area.
Mostly older people, handicapped. They have to go in with walkers or scooters or wheelchairs. They got the lift on the cars. They just have to just go and get where you need to go, to the doctor or to the store.
Evelyn uses public transportation to go to doctor's appointments or to the senior center or to just get out the house. With better structured public transportation, not only that Evelyn will get out easier, but relieve some stress off her daughter.
And then she comes back and gets me on Tuesday and Friday because she gets off early enough. But Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday I have to use the maps.
The city currently offers a trolley for public transport, but due to high demand and lack of drivers, the trolley system is a work in progress.
We've been really struggling with the trolley system to maintain and keep that going to meet the needs, and we're relying more heavily now on by schedule call-in service, which is helpful. It's something at this point, but we really need a more comprehensive and dynamic programs.
And the map you have to call several days in advance. You can't call up and say, well, I need to go to the doctor today, and they take you. You can't do that.
Joplin officials say this grant money will allow them to plan the public transportation system with longevity in mind. Reporting in Joplin, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
The Cherokee Nation also received grant money from the Federal Transit Administration. We reached out for comment but did not receive a response. City of Joplin today announced that their 32nd Street widening project is progressing. As it moves forward, sections of the road will be temporarily closed for construction. The road from Iron Gates and Arbor Road to the west side of the Westbury neighborhood is now closed. The city expects the project to be completed by late fall, barring weather delays. The funding came from the Capital Improvement Sales Tax, which voters approved back in 2014. You can learn more about the progress on KOAMnewsnow.com. 2 governors were in Pittsburgh today. One was Kansas Governor Laura Kelly. The other was New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. The governors were in town to learn how New Mexico can improve its higher education institutions. They visited Pitt State's Center for Reading, which stands for Research, Evaluation, and Awareness of Dyslexia, to see how it helps people with the condition.
We don't always teach educators how to teach reading. So your brain isn't wired to read. Your brain is wired to acquire language, but you don't have the software embedded at birth to read. So you have to be taught to read. Some brains are a little more agile about doing that, and it's not as hard.
I think it's so critically important that we're able to help young people learn how to read, comprehend, and you can see their abilities grow through high school and how that's connected back to their ability to learn to read and to write.
Kansas Governor Kelly also stopped by Pittsburgh's Block 22 to learn about the latest developments there. Parsons, Kansas today celebrated the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Celebration was downtown. It included guest speakers, free food, a dunk tank, live music, and various games and activities. The act was signed into law on July 26, 1990. It protects the rights of people with disabilities.
It is our Independence Day. It is the day that our rights become law. The right to have access to the community, the rights to have employment, the rights to have access to the courthouse, vote. I mean, all those things that kind of all started with the ADA.
There was also a free vaccine clinic offering COVID and flu shots. Organizers expect Marion Days this year to draw pre-pandemic attendance numbers. They say the event is around 80% ready to kick off next week. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has that story.
Even though this is Tian May's 5th year in the United States, this summer will be her first time participating in the Marion Days.
It's my dream because it's a very famous celebration. Everyone who come here is a miracle. And with me, it's a miracle too. With my family too, it's a miracle for me to come here.
The religious sister and graduate student traveled hours from Connecticut to Carthage to join other Catholic Vietnamese and descendants to celebrate their country's culture and religion.
A big celebration for every Vietnamese who is staying in the U.S. To give thanks to God and Mother Mary for their surviving from fleeing from Vietnam during the time of war.
Visitors come from all over the country and traditionally choose to camp outside.
About 100 tents like these ones are already up for Marion Days. The organizers are expecting pre-pandemic numbers this year. Almost 70,000 people should come for the event.
With the possibility of triple-digit temperatures, attendees might seek ways to stay cool, just as they have done in previous editions of the event. The local IMCA says they have more day visits during the Marion Days than the rest of the year combined.
We've had that break with COVID, so last year was the first year that it came back. It was a little smaller crowd, but we're expecting the bigger crowd this time. We could see anywhere between in a 5-day period, anywhere between 800 to 2,000 of them easily come through our door.
Selling day passes, IMCA offer attendants not only a fun time at the pool, but also a place to charge their phones, connected to Wi-Fi, and take a shower.
We definitely ramp up our staff, so we'll have additional lifeguards so that we can take on a bigger swimming load in our pools. And then we, of course, will have the AC cranked like no other so that they can come and enjoy the cooler temperatures inside our building.
One of the organizers of Marion Days, Father John Paul, believes the heat is not going to stop the festivities.
People sacrifice, especially the old people, 60, 70, spend the whole week out in this weather, sleep in tents like that. So it's more like a supernatural God's grace and gift, because according to human, nobody wants to be in hot weather, but it's because there's something drawing them here. So
in Carthage, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
That festival is held in recognition of the Virgin Mary and to honor Vietnamese martyrs. It'll start on Thursday of next week. It has programs in English and in Vietnamese so everyone can participate. Organizers expect people to be putting up their camping tents this weekend already. For more information, go to our website. Of course, that's KOAMnewsnow.com. The Labette County, Kansas Fair is off and hopping. The fair featured a rabbit show this morning. This is the 112th year for the fair. Along with today's rabbit show, there was also a meat goat show and a sheep show, but it's not all about livestock shows.
I would tell them to come watch the shows or the rodeos like that because they're really kind of cool. Because the rodeo does change every year, and the bronco ridings and stuff like that, they all happen over there in that arena. And then the bucket cast and the pig shows are kind of cool too.
Can't miss those pig shows. The fair is going to run through Saturday. Coming up, how a hospital is using the power of dance to help Parkinson's disease patients. Around 500,000 Americans are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. That's according to the National Institutes of Health. A U.S. hospital is using a new approach aimed at helping those living with Parkinson's. Reporter Mandy Gaither has more on how dance therapy is changing the lives of some patients.
In 2016, Jessica Ford started noticing an involuntary tremor in her right hand. It proceeded for months before she went to the doctor and was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
For a while, I kind of thought that really would end my life or change it so dramatically.
This 76-year-old says it took about a year to adjust her attitude toward the disease and to find a medicine that helped her symptoms, all the while remaining active.
Dance feeds my soul, and I love movement, I love music.
Now she's able to share that love with others living with the same disease.
For me, it was like the minute this thing came across my email, I signed up.
It's called Dancing with Parkinson's, a 5-week program offered by Northwestern Medicine and the Joffrey Ballet in Chicago.
All exercise is good for people with Parkinson's.
Dr. Danny Bega says the dance classes address the disease as a whole, helping not only his patients' bodies, but also their minds.
Learning and trying to remember steps in a dance routine is good for working with memory and improving thinking. We've seen benefits in people describing improvement in anxiety and in fatigue.
My body felt more relaxed. I felt more engaged, and the whole mental attitude was quite elevated.
After being apart from people during the COVID-19 pandemic, Ford says it's also nice to be social again.
Exercises that engage muscles without movement, like planks and wall sits, are best for lowering blood pressure. That's according to a new analysis of clinical trials published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. The study found other types of exercise, like resistance training and cardio, are still good, but not as effective. Researchers say new recommendations for controlling blood pressure might be needed. Doug is next with a complete look at the forecast, and later the MIAA preseason football poll is released. We're going to see where the Gorillas and the Lions landed in sports.
Well, of course, it turned out to be another hot one for us today. 98 was our official high. The clouds kept us down a degree or two, but that's fine if we don't hit 100. I'm okay with it. Looks pretty good right now. Nice shot. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, of course. Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. All right, heat advisories in effect, continuing. This is going to be for Thursday and Friday. Reevaluate as we go into the weekend, but everybody except Benton County under heat advisories due to the high heat and the humidity. In fact, look at our temperatures now. We're still mid to upper 80s across the board. Let's go outside. Here's 7th. Here's Rangeline. Currently sitting at 88. Still feels like 93. Southerly winds at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Look at our heat indices still sitting into the lower 90s across the region. Has been a little bit windy. The winds are going to stay breezy as we go through the daytime hours tomorrow. Winds gusting 20 to about 25. And then again on Friday, winds gusting kind of 20, 15 to 20 miles per hour. So at least the breeze helps us out just a bit. All right, not a whole bunch is going on. We had some clouds work through earlier today. You can even see a few little showers that dropped through on the Missouri side. Besides that, there's not a whole bunch going on. We got some thunderstorms out across northwest Kansas. Those aren't going to make it here. We've been mainly dealing with this big upper level dome, our heat dome, and the closer it gets to us, the drier we get and the hotter we get as well. So let's go through time. We're going to jump ahead a couple days, just kind of hangs out across New Mexico. We get the heat. All the bigger storms stay north along the jet stream. As we go into the weekend, early next week, we may get a few showers rotating around the high, but look at the high, it moves in. So our heat actually gets stronger next week, and then finally the area of high pressure starts to break down late next week. So that means no break until we get to that point in time. All right, let's jump through your next 48 hours, starting the day, upper 70s to near 80. In and out of the clouds, partly sunny skies. Lower 90s by noon. Now, I think most of us right around 100, 101, 99 for an afternoon high. And you can see a couple isolated little showers trying to pop up. 79 to start, 93 by noon, 99 by 5. Southerly winds at about 10 to 20. Tomorrow night, still some clouds, maybe an isolated shower, and still even a chance for a few isolated showers heading into Friday morning. And then high temperatures again, right around 100 degrees by the time we head into Friday afternoon. Let's look at heat indices. 105, 106 for us tomorrow. On Friday, heat indices again above that triple digit mark. Alert days for the heat advisory next 2 days. High temp of 100. 101 by Sunday. Hit and miss storms over the weekend, and then possible alert days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as it gets even hotter. Dow?
The Federal Reserve has raised interest rates again. The quarter-point increase was widely expected at today's meeting. It brings the Fed's benchmark rate up to a range of 5.25% to 5.5%. That's the highest it's been in 22 years. The central bank also signaled another rate hike is likely this year to help battle inflation. That could happen in September or November. A strike by UPS workers was avoided and a tentative deal was reached. Economists say, however, the result could mean higher prices for consumers. Fox Business correspondent Lydia Hu has more.
A potential strike by UPS workers has been avoided. A tentative labor deal was reached yesterday, and it gives workers a pay raise. Now, some economists are concerned about a potential wage price spiral that happens when prices are high, so workers demand more money. For companies to pay those higher wages, they have to hike prices for goods and services.
Are the pilots going to be more productive? Very difficult. How about the UPS workers? Very difficult. So you're going to see a surge in unit labor cost for these companies, and they're going to try to offset that hit to their margins by raising price.
The short-term good news is there is no strike, but here's what it costs. All workers will get a $2.75 an hour raise this year and a $7.50 an hour raise over the next 5 years. Part-time workers will start at $21 an hour, a boost from the current $16.20 per hour. And it's not just UPS navigating negotiations with unions. There are 170,000 actors and writers already on strike in Hollywood. Negotiations for 6,000 FedEx pilots are rocky. Automakers are bracing for a possible strike of about 150,000 auto workers, and some pilot unions are demanding more money as flight attendants threaten to strike too.
Inflation is high and is eating into budgets, but at the same time, the job market is still tight enough to actually encourage employers to come to the negotiating table on these issues.
The UPS 5-year deal still needs to be approved by union members. That vote starts next week, and if rejected, a strike could still happen. Reporting from New York, Lydia Hu, Fox Business.
Juul Labs says it's asking the FDA to approve a new high-tech e-cigarette system. It calls it a next-generation vapor platform that it claims combats underage use and improves safety. According to the company, the e-cigarette connects to an app that enables age verification and device locking. It also has, they say, tamper-proof pods and ID chips and a new heating system. Up next, we're going to learn what the most popular ice cream flavors are by state, according to Instacart. With National Ice Cream Month coming to an end, Instacart reveals the most popular flavors by state. The digital grocery delivery service looked at its purchase data from June of 2022 to May of 2023 to see which ice cream flavor each state bought the most compared to the national average. Instacart says about 50% of the country flavors vanilla. That is their favorite, vanilla in 50% of the country. That includes Kansas, also Missouri, also Oklahoma, also Arkansas. Vanilla? Chocolate came in second, largely along the East Coast. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. Downstream Casino hosts a conference featuring several area tribes celebrating their history and language. Plus, Maria youth baseball players are raising money to head to the Youth League World Series. The 12th annual Dagiha Language Conference wrapped up today. The conference focuses on the preservation of their native language and culture. KOAM's Jasmine Knight was there and has more.
Every year at the Dagiha Language Conference, they work towards unity between the Osage, Omaha, Quapaw, Kaw, and Ponca tribes. The once united tribes created a safe space to share stories about history and language.
Without your language, your culture's pretty dead. And so if you don't have your language with you, you don't have your ways about your clans and your learnings and the ways that you were taught by your elders. So
this year, the theme of the conference was intergenerational learning. Their goal is to educate and pass on Dagiha to the youth who may not speak the native language.
Today we have a big issue with identity. Our children want to be something or something else that they're not. And that's all fine, that's all well and good, but find out who you are first. Find out that you're Umaha. Find out who your parents are, your grandparents, where you come from, the clan, family that you come from. These are things that keep us grounded.
For them, keeping the language alive not only educates, but prevents the culture from dying.
Preservation is an interesting word because it's not just honoring the past, but making it relevant to our current day tribal nation members as well as our future generations. And if we don't come together and do these things today, our fear is it'll be lost, and we don't want that to happen.
So even though this conference focused on language preservation, they also hope to inspire the younger generations. Reporting in Oklahoma, Jasmine Knight, KOAM News.
That event also hosted various speakers from each attending tribe. Some Frontenac youth baseball players are headed to the World Series, but to get there, well, they've got to raise some money. So that's what they did today. The Frontenac 10 and under All-Stars held a car wash to cover travel expenses. It's all for an experience the players won't forget.
Went to Garden City and won regionals, so we're the first team in Frontenac history to go to the Cal Ripken World Series.
The community's done a great job with donations, so the boys have come out to show that they're willing to do some work to help raise money for our trip. We'll be leaving next Wednesday.
The team made the World Series by winning the Kansas State Championship and the Regional Championship. The Lord's Diner in Pittsburgh hands out meals to people in need every day. In fact, they've been handing out so many meals that today they handed out their 500,000th one, 500,000. That one went to a man named Johnny Butch. Officials say the meals being locally sourced adds to the excitement.
Tonight we have a beef broccoli rice casserole, so it's like a Korean take on Chinese. And we have green beans, they're super good. And fresh tomatoes, locally donated from our local farmers here in town. So that's really cool.
Yeah, sounds really good. The Lord's Diner is at 406 North Locust Street in Pittsburgh. What does the Pentagon know about UFOs that they're not telling us? Congress held an out-of-this-world hearing today to try to find out. Fox News correspondent Carolyn Shively reports from Washington.
Americans over the moon to hear about UFOs on Wednesday, standing in line to get into a congressional hearing to find out more about incidents like this.
There's a whole fleet of them.
Inside the hearing, a retired Air Force intelligence officer testified the government has been covering up a program on UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, to which I was denied access to those additional read-ons when I requested it.
The administration denies those claims, but says the Pentagon is studying unidentified objects.
We know that in some cases, these phenomena have impacted military training, have then impacted military readiness.
The committee also heard from former pilots who had witnessed unidentified flying objects they claim couldn't be flown by humans.
Could a human survive those G-forces with known technology today?
No.
No, not for the acceleration rates that we observed.
Some members expressed skepticism about some of the claims.
The concept that an alien species that's technologically advanced enough to travel billions of light years gets here and somehow is incompetent enough to not survive Earth or crashes is something that I find a little bit far-fetched.
Congressman Tim Burchett now says he'd like to hit the road and hold field hearings at different spots where UFOs have been reported. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
The Hunter Biden plea deal is now on hold for at least another 2 weeks. The deal with federal prosecutors unraveled when the judge questioned whether the deal gave the president's son immunity from all crimes or just the 3 counts he's currently charged with. The president's son instead pleaded not guilty to 2 tax charges after the judge said she would not rubber stamp the deal. Boy, a dramatic scene unfolded over the streets of Manhattan this morning. Look at this. A construction crane caught fire 45 stories up. Then part of it toppled down onto the street. It was carrying a 16-ton load of concrete that crashed to the ground. 6 people were injured, 4 civilians, 2 firefighters responding to the initial fire, all of whom sustained minor injuries. A bit later, drug smugglers impacting wildlife.
Is it possible that America's drug crisis is now impacting sharks? Researchers set up an experiment to find out. I'm Jonathan Seri. I'll have details coming up.
Well, of course, it turned out to be another hot one for us today. 98 was our official high. The clouds kept us down a degree or two, but that's fine if we don't hit 100. I'm okay with it. Looks pretty good right now. Nice shot. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, of course. Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. All right, heat advisories in effect, continuing. This is going to be for Thursday and Friday. Reevaluate as we go into the weekend, but everybody except Benton County under heat advisories due to the high heat and the humidity. In fact, look at our temperatures now. We're still mid to upper 80s across the board. Let's go outside. Here's 7th. Here's Rangeline. Currently sitting at 88. Still feels like 93. Southerly winds at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Look at our heat indices still sitting into lower 90s across the region. Has been a little bit windy. The winds are going to stay breezy as we go through the daytime hours tomorrow. Winds gusting 20 to about 25. And then again on Friday, winds gusting kind of 20, 15 to 20 miles per hour. So at least the breeze helps us out just a bit. All right, not a whole bunch is going on. We had some clouds work through earlier today. You can even see a few little showers that dropped through on the Missouri side. Besides that, there's not a whole bunch going on. We got some thunderstorms out across northwest Kansas. Those aren't going to make it here. We've been mainly dealing with this big upper level dome, our heat dome, and the closer it gets to us, the drier we get and the hotter we get as well. So let's go through time. We're going to jump ahead a couple days. Just kind of hangs out across New Mexico. We get the heat. All the bigger storms stay north along the jet stream. As we go into the weekend, early next week, we may get a few showers rotating around the high, but look at the high, it moves in. So our heat actually gets stronger next week, and then finally the area of high pressure starts to break down late next week. So that means no break until we get to that point in time. All right, let's jump through your next 48 hours, starting the day, upper 70s to near 80, in and out of the clouds, partly sunny skies. Lower 90s by noon. Now, I think most of us right around 100, 101, 99 for an afternoon high, and you can see a couple isolated little showers trying to pop up. 79 to start, 93 by noon, 99 by 5, southerly winds at about 10 to 20. Tomorrow night, still some clouds, maybe an isolated shower, and still even a chance for a few isolated showers heading into Friday morning. And then high temperatures, again, right around 100 degrees by the time we head into Friday afternoon. Let's look at heat indices, 105, 106 for us tomorrow. On Friday, heat indices again above that triple-digit mark. Alert days for the heat advisory next 2 days, high temp of 100, 101 by Sunday. Hit and miss storms over the weekend, and then possible alert days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as it gets even hotter. Dow?
Pittsburgh State is officially the team to beat in the MIAA football this year. That's according to both the coaches and media preseason polls released at yesterday's MIAA Media Day. The Gorillas take the top spot in both polls. Starting first with the media, this comes after PSU went undefeated in conference play a season ago. Its closest games were a 1-point win over Emporia State and a 2-point win over Northwest Missouri. Missouri Southern down in the 8th spot in the media poll after a 4-7 season a year ago. Not too much different in the coaches poll. Southern drops a couple spots down to 10th, but the top 7 are the exact same in both of them. However, Pitt State all-conference offensive lineman Trace Jeffries says his group is focused much more on the bigger picture. They're not overly concerned with preseason rankings.
We had a decent year last year. 12-1 looks good on paper, but at the end of the day, we didn't accomplish what we wanted to, and that's a national championship. I mean, sounds kind of crazy, but when you're a Gorilla, you know what you signed up for. Those are the expectations, so trying to get back there this year and hopefully take another step from there.
Pitt State football radio broadcasts also will now become much more accessible across the 4 states area. The Gorilla Sports Network announced today its radio coverage is expanding to now include 40 different counties throughout Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. 10 different FM and AM affiliates will carry the game. On top of the terrestrial radio coverage of Gorilla football games, fans also can listen on ESPN 100.7's live stream online. Missouri Southern women's basketball has a new commit, and she spent the first 3 years of her high school career lighting up teams from across the 4 states. Grace Frazier announced her commitment to the Lions on Twitter yesterday. She's entering her senior year at Diamond High School in Missouri, and as a junior, eclipsed 1,000 career points, helped the Wildcats to a 22-6 season, and that ended with a career-high scoring outburst of 40 points in a Class III sectional playoff game. Meanwhile, Cardinals wrapping up a week-long road trip this afternoon, hoping to get a series victory over the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Starting things out in the second inning, Nolan Gorman hits one deep into right center, and that one gets out for a solo homer, his 21st of the season, puts the Cards up 1-0. We'd hear from him again later. In the 6th, D-backs down 3-2 when Emmanuel Rivera crushes this one into the seats in left field. Off Jack Flaherty, his 4th of the season, that knotted things up at 7. Now, we go ahead. This ground ball single gets into the outfield. Paul DeJong is going to come in to score. Cardinals retake the lead, 4-3. Big inning for the Cards. 2 batters later, Paul Goldschmidt crushes one. The home run fest continues. That one gets out. 18th homer of the year for Goldschmidt. Cards up 6-3 into the 8th. There he is again. Gorman, this time to dead center field. 22nd home run of the season, 2-run shot. Cardinals go on to win 11-7. And as the Women's World Cup continues along, we're also giving you a chance to win some Fox FIFA Women's World Cup USA swag, like a boomerang, nose coat, and tote, and more. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now to start your entry. You can find complete contest details and official rules at KOAMnewsnow.com/giveaway. If you're looking for a free way to watch the games, remember, you can catch them all right here on Fox 14. That's it for sports. We're back with more news after this.
The U.S. Coast Guard seizes thousands of pounds of cocaine and other drugs from the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea every year. Some marine biologists now believe sharks could be consuming those drugs. Sounds like the premise for a really bad movie, but a group of researchers set out to prove that theory. Fox News senior correspondent Jonathan Siri has the story.
Whoa. First it was cocaine bear, and now it's cocaine sharks. It may sound like another far-fetched movie plot, but one marine biologist says it may actually be happening off the coast of Florida. Thousands of sharks feasting off bricks of cocaine dumped at sea by drug smugglers.
Sharks are intelligent creatures. They've gone up and touched it with the only thing they've got, their mouth, and taken a bite out of it. They would have got a hit of cocaine. So it sounds crazy, but the probability of it occurring is actually quite high.
Marine biologist Tom the Blowfish Hurd teamed up with other researchers to test the theory for the Shark Week documentary, Cocaine Sharks. The team created packages similar in size to cocaine bricks and filled them with concentrated fish powder, which would trigger a dopamine rush similar to a hit of cocaine. Packages were then dumped in the Florida Keys, where U.S. Border Patrol says it's common to find illegal drugs. Hurd says the results were as expected.
They didn't increase any aggressive behavior. They were just tuned up. They were on full alert, ready to go, looking.
While more research still needs to be done, Hurd hopes the experiment is a wake-up call to the public about the effects of chemicals in our oceans.
Looking at the way pharmaceuticals are going through us and entering our waters, that is something that we need to be very, concerned about and need to start looking into right now, rather than being too worried about some, hepped up sharks, reaching for the lasers, dancing till dawn.
Hurd also hopes this leads to research into the impact of chemicals in the seafood we eat. In Atlanta, Jonathan Siri, Fox News.
Coming up, as Team USA looks to win another Women's World Cup, we're going to learn about a different soccer tournament with a messy twist. The Women's World Cup is well underway in New Zealand, but on the other side of the world, another soccer tournament just finished, leaving competitors in a muddy mess. Reporter Ian Lee shows us a new spin on soccer.
Scoring is just half the battle in swamp soccer. The other half is not getting stuck. This muddy madness gives playing dirty a whole new meaning.
We get stuck on the swamp and we lose our shoes in the swamp and so on, but we just try to get the ball to the goal.
Every year, more than 100 teams from around the world slip, slide, and dive in the muck in Finland.
It's very good exercise for the fitness.
The grimy game takes true grit, lasting a total of just 20 minutes because, let's face it, any longer and players would probably collapse from exhaustion.
You have to be quite fit because it's really hard, and sometimes you can't run. You have to crawl.
Finland's cross-country ski team came up with the idea in 1998 to train in the off-season. The sport got bogged down in the pandemic, but it's kicking off again. And forget level playing fields here.
You sink in like the whole body and you need to crawl.
Crawl, run, or walk, just as long as you score and have some good, clean fun.
A women's team from Finland and a men's club from Germany took the top prize in the sloppy sport this year. That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're going to leave you with video of animals at the Phoenix Zoo keeping cool in this intense heat, or at least trying to. Let's make it a great tomorrow.